If you love cruising, you're new to cruising, or you're cruise curious, you're in the right place. This is Huddled Adventures. My name is Eddie. We are all things cruising, and today I'm going to answer a cruise question, a very important cruise question that is not asked often enough. And it regards the cruise itinerary and your cruise contract. One of my coworkers asked this question today. He's never been on a cruise ship, but he's cruise curious. I'm working on him. He's cruise curious. His wife is hesitant. So we're trying to talk him going on a cruise. But anyways, he asked the question today. He said, Eddie, what happens if you can't go to one of the ports on your cruise due to, say, a storm or hurricane or something? What do they do? Great question. This is a question that is not asked often enough by people. But this question is answered in your cruise contract. It's very clear in your cruise contract. Now, I'm not picking on you. No one reads the cruise contract. No one reads the fine print. No one reads the directions. We are the instant gratification society. We want to do things right now. We ain't got time for all these reading of words, and we don't look at it. Okay. Every cruise line in their cruise contract says some version of the cruise line has the authority to alter your cruise itinerary at any given time. And you can't do nothing about it. That's basically it, bottom line. And they give examples why they would need to do this and conditions. And they don't have to give you a refund. Okay, sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll give you partial refunds. Sometimes they'll give you a future discount on a future cruise or future onboard credit or current onboard credit. They're pretty flexible. They're pretty good to work with, the cruise lines guys. I'm not going to pick on them, but they don't have to give you anything. And you can go call, whoever you want, your lawyer, and threaten them all you want, and it doesn't matter because that's the contract. But now you might be going, well, that's a bunch of BS. That's what my buddy said. That's a bunch of BS. And I go, well, you have to understand, the number one job of a captain of a cruise ship is keeping everyone on board safe. So with that in mind, weather. If the weather is dangerous, obviously they're not going to go to that port, okay? If the weather comes through before the ship and destroys the port, damages the dock, they're not going to that port, okay? You got to understand that. If the water is rough, if the sea is rough, you can have a sunshiny day. I've been there many times, and it's just rough. The waves are really big and aggressive. And say you have a tender port. A tender port is a port where the ship is too big to actually get into the actual dock area. So they anchor out away from the port, and then a little tender boat comes out like this one. And then you have to walk across a little gangway while both ships are moving. You got people in wheelchairs and scooters and people on crutches and just 56-year-old guys with bad hips like me trying to walk across the gangway. And they're not gonna do that. So they'll just tell you right in the morning, hey, we're here, but guess what? You're not getting off the ship today. The water's too rough. Have a great day. And then I just love it because I'll be walking around the ship listening to people go, what? Because they try to look where the speaker, the intercom, what? That's life. That's life on the sea, guys. We are out in nature, Mother Nature. That's what we're dealing with. So you have your weather situations, okay? And I'll give you an example of one that just happened 2 weeks ago. You might have heard a huge earthquake occurred somewhere off the coast of Russia, which sent a huge wave of water, a tsunami, heading towards Hawaii in the middle of the day. Well, the alarms went off in Hawaii, notifying everybody a tsunami's coming, which means the cruise ships have to get out of port right now. Don't pass go, don't collect $200, get out of there. Unfortunately, when they had to pull out, there's hundreds of guests on excursions on the island. They got abandoned there, okay? Well, the Hawaiian government rounded everybody up, took them to higher ground and shelters to keep them safe, and everybody was fine. Now, those poor people that were on excursion were forced to spend the night in, some old school or something on high ground. They weren't sleeping on a lush cruise ship for sure. And they picked them up the next day and went on with the cruise. And then that particular cruise line, which was Norwegian, gave everybody on board, I believe they gave them 25% off on a future cruise, plus $100 on board credit and some other things like that. And they did it for everybody on board. Now, there were so many people got stranded off the ship, thought that, well, why is everybody getting, awarded with these, consolation prizes? And it's because everybody's cruise was affected by it. Yours was affected worse, but, you also were on an excursion, So, it's just one of those things. It happens. It's Mother Nature. They can't do nothing about it. So that's an example of weather. Now, mechanical issues. Now, when cruise ships start having mechanical issues, they're kind of like your cousin that drives that beater car that sounds like, it's a bunch of marbles rattling around in a tin can when he starts it. And you don't know if he's going to make it where he's going. And he's always talking about he's going to fix it. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix that. It's almost like that in a way, but it's not that bad. They're going to keep using the ship as long as they can, okay? So a common problem cruise ships run into mechanically that causes them to not make it to all the ports on itineraries is when they suffer propulsion issues. They just can't go top speed. When the cruise ships can't reach their top speed of like 21, 22 knots per hour, and say they can only do 17, 18 knots per hour, 17, 18 knots per hour is still fine. That's plenty fast enough to do a cruise, a 7-day cruise, whatever. But you might not be able to go as far because you have to remember, they're on a time schedule. They got to hit all these places and then turn around and come back and get you back to the home port in time, okay? So they have to look at that. It's a math problem. It's like those story problems we used to get in 8th grade, 2 trains heading in 2 different directions at this many miles per hour. It's one of those. It's a story problem, guys. So they do the math on it. They're good. They got computers and stuff. And they go and continue sailing, and they alter the itinerary. You'll probably get a letter before your cruise saying, the Golden Goose cruise ship is having propulsion problems, so old Golden Goose can't go to this port or that port, but we're substituting these 2 ports instead of that, or something. They'll usually send you a letter and they'll email it. They don't Paul Revere it or send it in snail mail. They email it. It's 2025, But anyways, you'll get this notification. And some people go, I got to go to Nassau, Bahamas again? And they get really mad. It's understandable. But the cruise lines can't do nothing about it right at that moment because like your cousin that's waiting for that tax refund, check to come through to fix his car, they have to wait so that they can schedule a dry dock to get the ship fixed, okay? A dry dock will take a ship out of service for 6 to 8 weeks minimum usually, sometimes up to 12 weeks long when they're in dry dock. Now guess what? Cruises are booked out 3 years, 2.5, 3 years ahead of time. When that ship goes to dry dock, that means, say it's a 7-day-a-week ship, 7-day itinerary, and it's going to be in dry dock for 8 weeks. That's 8 weeks of cruises canceled. 4,000 people on the ship, times 8, so that's 32,000 people aren't going to get their cruise vacation because that ship is in dry dock. So rather than punish a bunch of people right up front, they try to go as far as long as they can until they can do that. And they try to schedule it when things slow down or in between the scheduling of the ships, So it's complicated, but that happens. So you have that mechanical issue. Any mechanical issue is going to be a safety issue. They're going to fix that. Your cruise is getting canceled, so keep that in mind. The other one is civil unrest, man. Civil unrest. You wanted to go to Haiti. Well, you booked your cruise a 1.5 years ago. You're on a Royal Caribbean ship, and it's supposed to go to Haiti, and you get notified it's not going to Haiti because there's civil unrest there. They're not going to let you get off the ship in a country that they're having civil war going on. They're not doing that. That's your safety at stake. So that's not happening. Another thing that can cause your itinerary to be changed, and it does occur occasionally, is medical emergencies. If the ship is heading out of, say, Miami, and it's a few hours out, and someone has like a heart attack or something, that ship is going to turn around and go back to Miami a lot of times. And if they're not too far away, they're going to turn around and go back. This might cut into 6, 8, 10, 12 hours of your cruise. Now, they might be able to make it up because depending on the itinerary, maybe all your locations are close and they can make it, they do it doing 13 knots. Now they just do 21 knots. They highball it, cannonball run, at night where you're sleeping to get you to the next port. And they can make up that time in the course of a week. These ship captains they're awesome, guys. Awesome. Totally awesome. And they know what they're doing. So that can happen, medical emergencies. Now, a lot of times people forget about this issue. You worry about, am I going to get to, go to St. Thomas? Am I going to go to St. Kitts? Am I going to get to go to Puerto Rico, San Juan? They don't worry about, are you going to get back in Miami on time? You can have delays, weather, that can prevent you from getting back to your home port. So there's been many examples over the last few years where people have been stuck waiting for storms to clear up, hurricanes to clear out before it's safe enough to get them in a port, where they're sitting out in the Gulf for an extra day or two. Now you're supposed to be back to work, and your boss is going, where are they at? Where are you? You're stuck on a cruise ship. So that can happen. So my advice, our advice, because Laura's here, but she's not here, is pack your patience, be understanding, and understand that a lot of things that happen are out of the control of the cruise line directly, okay? So there's no sense of getting mad at them. It's like getting mad at the weather. It's like shaking your fist at the sky type of stuff. So with that said, guys, I want to thank you for watching. We got a lot of new subscribers here lately. Welcome aboard, and I will talk to you soon.